again, I'm fiddling with this nowhere near proper size blanket because it's Black Friday. It was a madhouse out there all day long. Anyway, the time is upon us. It is 8:30 on Public House Media, and it is time for hashtag No Filter Fridays. I was on Baxter's show earlier this week, and I said that this week was going to be about Kevin Spacey, and I have decided that this week is not going to be about Kevin Spacey because of two things. The last broadcast I did last week, I got a comment from my friend Lauren Vale about how her daughter wants to be in the industry really badly, but she is absolutely terrified about navigating it, which is completely valid, and you absolutely should feel that way. Number two, yesterday, being Thanksgiving, we went to the Laugh Factory to go feed the homeless people of Los Angeles, because every year on Thanksgiving and Christmas, Jamie Sasada, the owner of the Laugh Factory, does free Thanksgiving dinner to any and all who show up, and it's served by comics and other volunteers, and it was super, super fun. I had the best time ever, and our dear, amazing, wonderful friend, Tiffany Haddish, got on stage because as they're serving dinner, comics get up and they do, like, not really like the real set, but, you know, they do Thanksgiving jokes and just kind of talk to the people that are there. It's not really like doing regular comedy. But Tiffany Haddish got up and talked about how everybody that was there, you know, all the comics that were there, all the volunteers were there, were all, you know, fantastic people that are in the industry, and that it is a family because Tiffany's talked about this a few times, but she came up through the Laugh Factory, like improv classes and things like that when she was homeless. So that's kind of her her home base, her give back, and how that, you know, the Laugh Factory like is her family. And that's true for so many other people. And on top of it, there were so many other comics there that is, you know, that there is their family. And I've been feeling like, even though I don't mean to come across as dumping on the entire industry and the entire town, because it is in fact filled with, you know, vile, scummy people, but there are really wonderful people here too. And although this industry is a dysfunctional family, it is a family of misfits. It is a family nonetheless. And, you know, some of us are quite bonded to each other. And I love that. I love that this is a business that allows for, you know, epic friendships and epic relationships and love in a professional setting, which I think is really fantastic. So, with that being said, I thought we would talk about how to, in fact, avoid bad people and bad situations that do happen in the entertainment industry. So, there are a few ways that you might find yourself subject to somebody who has some predatory tendencies, or in a situation that goes from completely nonchalant to bad to totally worse, and oh my God, how horrible. There's two main tactics that predatory people use. The first one is isolation. They will try to get you cordoned off into some place where nobody can see. No crew members can see. There's no, you know, agents, managers, other people around. They're going to try to get you alone. And that is the industry-facing situation. Any predator is going to want you alone, obviously. Alone and defenseless, preferably. Because that's the best way that they can exert power. It's your word against theirs, if you ever even say anything. So, if someone approaches you, or is like, oh, hey, come over here, or whatever, the best way that you can start to build some walls is even give some perceived notions that you're not alone, that you have someone that cares about you. Agents, managers, other industry friends, something. Like, even if you don't have an agent or a manager and you're a total green noob, say that you do, even if you don't. Like, I don't care if you have to, if somebody like calls you out on it and you have to give them your best friend's older sibling's phone number. Like, yeah, this person's my manager, call them. Text them real fast and be like, hey, so I totally kind of gave your information to this guy. If they end up to be real, cool, but I'm pretty sure they're, lying. At least make it seem like you have somebody in your corner, or best alternative, actually have someone in your corner, whoever that might be, and try not to be alone. Like, one of the downsides of this business is that it does attract a certain person that probably is alone. Like, I was alone when I first got here, like, for sure. Not even before I first got here full time. Like, when I was first like commuting back and forth to work, like, I was absolutely by myself. And I still, to this, even when I was still living here and then working in Europe or working in Asia, like, I was by myself. I've been all over the world alone. Like, you have to at least give the illusion or notion that you do have people in your corner, you have people that know where you are, you have someone somewhere that cares about what you're up to and what you're doing. So let me refer to my notes here. Okay, which brings me to my next point. Because this kind of industry lends itself to being alone, or being alone in a lot of situations, don't forget that even with an underage situation, there are parents out there that will gladly give away their children to be like, oh yeah, do whatever, fame, money, fortune, status, whatever. They don't care. Like, they'll give their kids away for 25 cents. They don't care. If you happen to see somebody being lackadaisical, whether they be an adult or a minor or whatever, keep an eye on them, because they might not know, the dangers lurking painfully close. Like, there's always, this town is so grimy, even though I love it. There is always somebody lurking somewhere on the verge of an opportunity to do something terrible. So, just because your parents are, with you and helpful and things like that, that doesn't mean everybody else's parents are. So keep your eyes peeled. Bottom line is, don't get isolated. And then the second point that you want to try to avoid is grooming. Major tactic of pedophiles. They offer something that you shouldn't be having. So they will, typically this is a behavior of pedophiles looking after young boys, offering them drugs, offering them porn, offering them booze, offering them things that they're not supposed to have. Because not only will it probably lower their inhibitions, they would have to, if and when something does happen, they would have to tell on themselves to tell on the perpetrator. They would then have to admit, oh yeah, I was doing drugs, or, whatever thing that they were doing that they shouldn't have been doing, to then tell on this other person. Being a predator of a sexual nature is like the perfect crime, because your victim doesn't want to tell on you. Like, they might want to on the inside, but to be able to actually come forward is really, really hard. So from a criminal standpoint, it's like the best crime in the world, because your victim wants to shut up. They don't want to say anything. They don't want to go to the authorities. They don't want to tell people. It works out really great. Let's look at notes again. Hang on. So with grooming or with isolation, the main thing is to be like, you don't have anything that I want. Even if they do have something that you want, say that you don't want it. Be unavailable, or be distant, be cautious. Because, even still to this day, I've been in this business since I was 12 years old. I've been working for well over 15 years. A few months? No, at the end of October, whenever Stranger Things 2 came out, I was working with Ego on the launch of Stranger Things 2. Standing out at the premiere in front of tons of people, this guy comes up to me and the other girl that I was working with, who is actually very young. She's 19. She's fresh off the boat. She's been here for like a month. Again, don't ever tell people that you're new in town. Tell people that you are old and busted and cranky and not having it. Don't ever tell anybody that you're new. If they end up being like actually somebody of note later, tell them that you lied to them. That's once they've passed the smell test. Comes up to me, says that he's from a major trade publication. He's a member of the media. I didn't actually see his credentials, so I'm not going to say what trade publication it was because I don't know for certain that he actually worked there. So we're talking to this guy because that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be spokesmodels for Ego. And we're chatting about Stranger Things, and he's like, oh, so you an actress, or are you an actress? Talking to both of us, but mostly me, because I'm trying to get little Paige to kind of stay over there and away from this guy. And it's like, oh, are you an actress? Are you an actress? And I dance around the question. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I did a movie last year. You know, I was gone. Trying to avoid what this guy's doing because I'm old and I can see what he's doing from a mile away. And he keeps asking. He asked like 5 times, like, are you an actress? And I'm like, gosh, like, why does this guy care? And I'm like, yeah, you know, whenever the occasion calls for it, you know, whenever there's a paycheck involved. He's like, oh, do you have an agent? And I'm like, yeah, I'm old. Do you see this wrinkle on my face here? I'm old. I've been doing this a long time. There's gray hairs popping out of right here. Been doing this since I was 12. I have an agent, bro. It's fine. And I tried to dance around that question too, to just be like, what on earth are you asking me? And he kept making a point. I'm like, yeah, been doing this a long time. I have an agent. I have several agents because I work all over the world. And he finally like took a hint and like kept it moving. And I went over to Paige and I'm like, oh my goodness, like this guy and his questions, Jesus. And she's like, what? I don't understand what he was asking. I'm like, oh, he was trying to put moves down is what he was trying to do. I'm like, away, whatever it is that you think that you're selling, nobody over here is buying it. Take it someplace else. And as horrible as it is to say, if you can give up if, you know, predators are predators, that's their nature. There's nothing that you can do about that. But if you can get someone to be like, to get the hint that they're barking up the wrong tree and they need to move along, hopefully they will see that you're not a good target and they'll go someplace else. Because people who are actually legit and actually have careers don't behave that way. They just don't. And a lot of this is coming out more and more, but a lot of the people that do have these predatory tendencies and they do have real careers, they were installed by other people. They had help along the way. So if you just randomly meet someone off the street or not someplace that has a guest list and a good one and a, you know, some discernment at the door, chances are they're just blowing smoke. They're just yakking and yakking and yakking to see what they can get. I happened to talk to my friend Jonathan Lipnicki today because he's off in London doing a dating show. And I was like, Jonathan, like, doing this show later, you've been working forever. He was in Jerry Maguire when he was tiny. He was Stuart Little. He's been working his whole life. I was like, okay, like, what are your best tips on avoiding people trying to come at you from a professional standpoint, but really they're in it for something else? And he said something that it was really specific and I've never even thought of it this way. And he was like, yeah, a lot of people that have ulterior motives, they come up to me and they try to flatter me like, oh, I'm such a fan of your work. You're so talented. You're so great. You're so this, you're so that. And if you ask them directly what they're specifically a fan of, if they're like, oh, you're so talented. Okay, how do you ask them specifics about how they feel about your, quote unquote talent directly? Ask them directly. what they're referring to. And if they have ulterior motives, they can't answer it because that's not what they're concerned with. If they're genuinely somebody who thinks you're talented or is a fan of X, Y, and Z, they will have a direct answer to that direct question. Thank you, Jonathan Licky. And then he told me something else because he has really great parents. He said that his mom was there, every second of him working and was super, super attentive and was not taking any mess from anybody. And she was really good at like negotiating. And he said that when he got to got more and more work under his belt, he was like moving up the ladder, that with his pull that they had then, that they could be really choosy in the studio teachers and demand, the studio teacher that they wanted because they double as social workers on set. And it is never bad to have an extra set of eyes or an extra set of ears on your child, or even just around, like anybody else on set that's like looking out is a good thing. And really too, like if your kids are working, get to know, or even if it's just you're working and you're of age, get to know your department people, get to know your hair and makeup people, get to know your wardrobe people, get to know your grips and your gaffers and all these people that are, in your general vicinity because, or, your transpo guys, your drivers, like all that stuff, or transpo girls, whatever. Get to know those people because, again, the more and more people that you have in your corner, the better. And, that will look out for you because there are good people in this business. I promise you. You just have to weed them out and separate them from the crazy. And some people, and we have, crazy pantsers around here that are good people. They just, do crazy things. What else did Jonathan have to say? But yeah, ask specific questions. So in closing, just in general, that's a really good piece of advice. Like if someone's like, oh, hey, I'm working on this movie and you should come like audition for it. Be like, okay. Who's the casting director? Where's their office? What's your funding like? Could you fax over proof of funds to my manager? I've hit so many people with, you should fax over your proof of funds to my manager. They will never speak to you again. Like, they will take it someplace else. Don't do that to everybody when a real casting director calls you up and be like, hey, can you come in for this? Don't tell them that. But if some random comes up to you and is like, oh, we're working on a movie, like you should, do whatever. But like, oh, what's your funding like? Who's doing it? Who are your people? Where is their office? And I really don't like to go hang out with anybody that doesn't have, that I don't know, or I don't know anyone that knows them, that doesn't have an office with their name on the door. Very big stuff. I feel like if I don't know you by now, and if I don't know anybody that knows you, and you don't have an office with your name on the door, no thank you. Take it someplace else. Ask specific questions, and if you cannot get specific answers, it's a no. Not worth it. See you later. So that's it. That is my my 50-50 guide with some help of Jonathan Lipnicki of how to steer clear of nasty people and nasty situations in the entertainment industry. If you have any questions about that, send me a message because I'm around. And at the very least, I can point you, if I don't know the answer, I can point in the direction of somebody that does. Because doing your research and knowing the who's and what's and whys of this town are really, really important. Like, everybody is just, a social media page away, and you can find and talk to anybody you want. Read the trades, read Variety, read Hollywood Reporter, Deadline. Even if you just get the Twitter feed from Deadline, that will tell you plenty. I think Deadline might even have their own, Entertainment Weekly has their own Sirius radio platform. I think Deadline might have an hour or something on it, but inform yourself of the who's and what's is going on around here. And that way, if some random pops up on you that's like, oh, hey, we're doing this. Like, really? Because I read otherwise. So you kind of have to be a little bit snotty. And if you say, oh, gosh, I'm not really available, or, yeah, I mean, we can talk about it with my manager. You know what? I'll hit them with I'll have my people call your people. And if they don't have people and you don't have people and they're trying to do this alone nonsense, just don't. It's not worth it. Legit people have like actual channels of communication and things like that. You can be when you don't know someone, you kind of owe it to them to be above board. Especially if they're going to be approaching you, not the other way around. So they need to be explaining to you who and what they are, if you're catching my drift. Anyway, this was #NoFilterFridays on Public House Media. If you have any questions, send them to me or comment below. Next week, I have some things in the works. I haven't exactly decided what we are going to do for next week, but it will be fun. It will be epic. And if you miss the live shows, you can always get it the next day as a podcast that you can listen to wherever you want on iTunes and Google Play. So see you later, folks.